It is time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back to another episode of Around the 412. I am Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host, Smitty. Be sure to go follow us on all of our social medias at Around the 412. And if you're not watching the show over there already, go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so you guys never miss a video. And while you're watching over on YouTube or listening on the listening platforms, you can go to the description and see all the links to our great sponsors. This is a Steelers episode, and we're going to do, it's been a few weeks of free agency. Our mock draft, I feel like from pre-free agency to post-free agency, this is going to be the first one that we do post-free agency. Is probably going to look a little different, or at least our thoughts on some of the picks may look a little different. So I wanted to ask you just to really open up the show and get right into it. Since the free agency period has started, what in your mind has changed from the first time we did a mock draft, or what has changed when you're thinking about the draft and how you would approach that since the Steelers have approached free agency and some of the signings that they've had?
Well, they don't have a second round pick because of the Emeka trade. So a little bit less ammunition in the draft this year because of that, but I take that trade off.
Clearly with DK Metcalf, you're probably not thinking wide receiver in round one as much of a need.
Yeah, I like that would be. There's a very specific scenario, like there's a run on defensive tackles and Egbuka is on the board. Probably he's the BPA. I think then you make the case there, just because George Pickens he probably got for one season. So while you might not need Egbuka as much in 2025, certainly are going to need somebody in 2026. And if it's not him now, I think we'd be talking about that back at kind of at the top of the board next draft if George Pickens does leave before the 2026 draft. So that could certainly make sense. Corner, kind of kick the can down the road for a season potentially. Mm-hmm. Yes, they checked the box in free agency, but it was with a soon-to-be 34-year-old. So I'd say right now the winner is Corey Trice. They didn't. But again, we got to get through the draft before I could really say that for sure. But they just got a stopgap there. They didn't go out and sign Charvarius Ward for 3-4 seasons to block him out. So yeah, we know defensive tackle certainly right at the top of the board, and I think that's a position we could certainly look to double dip. I think despite the signing of Kenneth Gainwell, running back still certainly could make sense. I think we got to pay attention to safety. Like as much as the Steelers are involved with safeties right now, leading up to the draft, like think back to last year where we were kind of thrown off by as much interest that they had by the off-ball linebackers because they had spent, so much money on Patrick Queen in free agency. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people didn't take note of it or just brushed it to the side or whatever, that they were, going through the process, interviewing so many off-ball linebackers. And then they draft Peyton Wilson. And I feel like I'm getting similar vibes about this year's safety class. So they could very well draft one. And it doesn't seem like that mid-round pick that we're expecting for an offensive lineman. I'm not rolling it out, but maybe we should be talking about a safety in that spot as opposed to an offensive lineman.
Yeah, I mean, I think that does make sense. Right now, your safeties that are on the roster that you would expect to be on the 53-man roster come this fall, you're looking at Minkah Fitzpatrick, Deshaun Elliott as the starters, clearly. And then newcomer Juan Thornhill from Cleveland. And then Miles Killebrew is technically a safety, but really he's a special teams specialist, quite literally. You still have Ryan Watts, who you missed out on because of injury this past season. So we'll see if that turns into something this summer whenever we get into training camp. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think safety should be rolled out. And on the flip side of that, going back to corner, I agree with you there too. I think that corner kind of got kicked down the road a little bit. Bringing in Darius Slay and Brandon Echols at the outside and slot corner positions, that kind of is something that we a little bit predicted in our mock off seasons ourselves. So it's not that surprising, but getting guys at both positions already, I feel like at least right now, I don't get the sense that corner is going to be that much of a position. And maybe in the later rounds, if it's like a BPA sort of deal, they do take one. But I don't think that that's going to be something that is of importance. And I do think you mentioned him as well, Kenneth Gainwell being brought in. I don't think that should affect the way the Steelers approach the draft really at all versus how we were looking at it prior to the free agency period starting, because I know that you probably feel this way and I feel this way too. Kenneth Gainwell is more or less a Cordell Patterson replacement in terms of what he's going to contribute to the offense, being able to be contributing in the return game as well, and expecting the Steelers to add another back to that. So, I mean, a lot of things are still the same for the Steelers, but few positions, based off the last time that we did a mock draft a few weeks ago, are going to be different in this one.
Yeah, and I guess the one position, we'll see how much we're talking about quarterback. Like, I mean, if they don't sign Aaron Rodgers, I guess we got to consider the possibility of them drafting one earlier. But I really feel like I think it's possible for them to take one in the middle rounds this year. But I really think they have their eye towards 26. What I will say, Ohio State's pro day today, I got 3 texts, one from somebody connected to the organization, one from somebody that covers the team, and one from somebody that covers Ohio State. And they're like, yeah, the Steelers are all over Will Howard here. Like, they are heavily in the Will Howard market. We'll see where he's going to go. We'll see how this mock draft goes and if it makes sense to take him in a specific spot. But I'm still expecting that Aaron Rodgers is eventually going to sign here. Giants, while they were the most serious threat out of the teams, but at the same time, they were offering $5 million more than the Steelers and couldn't convince them to even go check out the facility and have a meeting with them. So, like, they signed Russell Wilson. More power to him. We'll see how that develops there. But I'm still expecting Aaron Rodgers. It's Steelers or retirement, or he waits this thing out to see if somebody gets hurt, I guess. But I ultimately think this time before the draft, Aaron Rodgers is going to end up being the Steelers starting quarterback.
I'm in the same boat, and I've told everybody that I've talked to about it when we were talking about the quarterback position for the Steelers that Aaron Rodgers is a Steeler until he's not. And I know that's an easy thing to say, but I think quite literally Aaron Rodgers right now, because of the recent signing with Russell Wilson going to the New York Giants, is quite literally a Steeler until he is not. That is the only open available option that he has on the market. And unless, like you mentioned, if he's going to take a Joe Flacco route where he just doesn't sign, is pseudo retired, and then comes in mid-season if somebody gets injured, then more power to him. But I just don't think that that's something that he would do. I'll be honest with you. I feel like he's either fully out or fully in. And by fully in, I mean he's going to sign preseason. And so I think that Aaron Rodgers, if I'm a betting man, I still think that he will sign with the Steelers prior to the season. I think that he will be the starting quarterback in 2025. But right now, your starting quarterback, if Aaron Rodgers does indeed not sign with the Steelers, is going to be Mason Rudolph, and I'll stand by that. No matter what they do in this draft, I don't think that they could get anybody that is going to be anywhere close to being ready to be able to come in and produce at this high of a level. We've talked about how bad this quarterback class is overall and where the quarterbacks are going to be taken by the Steelers potentially. I just don't think there's anybody that's going to be close to ready to come in. So Mason Rudolph would be your starter if Aaron Rodgers is not going to be that guy. And before we jump into the actual mock draft and start this thing going, I want to ask you another question since we're talking about quarterbacks. And we've kind of talked about this before in the past. A lot of smoke to Jackson Dart at 21. I want to know, in your opinion, because you're connected to a lot of people that are around the team and the draft and everything, is this something that is just being pushed in a narrative that's just being pushed by draft people that just want to get a pick out there? Or is this something that has some legitimacy in your mind?
No. I think, and I'll be honest, I don't think it's necessarily them putting it out there just for clicks or whatever it is. I see the vision where it makes sense. He's QB3 for a lot of people, and he's going to be the best quarterback in a lot of people's minds that's left on the board at 21. People think the Steelers need to take a quarterback this year. I've heard about a lot of different quarterbacks in terms of the Steelers' interest in them. Jackson Dart's name has not come up in a positive fashion from anybody connected to the organization. Like, it's so interesting to me. And I think I expect the conversation to ramp up once they go to Ole Miss Pro Day, because they'll be there primarily for Walter Nolan, but a lot of people will read that as them being there for Jackson Dart. But once he does not come here for a top 30 visit, I think the writing will be on the wall. And by the time we get to people's final mock drafts, I don't think he'll be penciled in to pick 21 for the Pittsburgh Steelers anymore at that point. I've heard a lot about Will Howard. I've heard a lot about Jalen Milroe. I've heard a lot about Cal McCord, Quinn Ewers, Curtis Rourke, like guys that are going to be further down. Yeah, I have not heard good things about Jackson Dart from any. Honestly, I haven't heard that much, but the things that I have heard have not been in a very positive fashion in terms of how they feel about Jackson Dart. Now, devil's advocate on myself here, is this just a massive smokescreen? Is that why his name's not really being mentioned? But at the same time,
that's true.
If it is,
not that we want to compare it to this, we didn't hear a lick about Kenny Pickett 2 years ago or 3 years ago now.
Yeah, and I guess the thing there is they already had all the information. Like he's right next door the entire time, whatever. But yeah, I mean, the only thing that I'll say in regard to if it is just some giant smoke screen, I mean, then it is for their own scouts as well. Like it's if Omar Khan and Tomlin and Andy Weidel and the top brass like Jackson Dart, that message has not been relayed to their scouts. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But I to answer your question, I don't think that they actually are in the Jackson Dart market as we sit here right now.
I don't either. I figured I would need to ask because it's a topic that I feel like should be brought up because I feel like there's so many people mocking Jackson Dart to the Steelers at 21 right now. Mm-hmm. And I know that you and I think that's a big mistake. You and I probably both agree that he is not a first-round quarterback, period, not just with the Steelers. And would we be comfortable drafting him in round 3? Sure, maybe. I mean, that's a little different story, but using a pick like that on round 1, I'm not sure that I would want to use that on any of the quarterbacks this year because I don't think any of them are game changers.
What's going on, everybody? Smitty from Around the 412, and I just want to take a quick second to give a shout out to our folks at Game Changers. Their logo on the screen right now, right above my microphone. Over 2,000 different designs in their catalog. Luxury heavyweight material. I am wearing one of their shirts right now. Best vintage t-shirts in the game. Head over to gamechanger.la or pick6.la to pick up some shirts. And guess what? Use code AT412. Save yourself $10 on your order every single time. Again, gamechanger.la or pick6.la. Best vintage t-shirts in the game. Check them out. Very nicely done. All right, we're about 12 and a half minutes into this thing. We have not made a selection yet on what we are calling a post-free agency mock draft, so the people are probably like, what the heck's going on? Or they've already clicked off the video and are upset that we titled it as such. But we are going to do a mock draft. Let's jump into it. I will share my screen, add it to the stage as StreamYard tells me to do so. Take a look real quick at the picks. Again, no second-round picks, so not a lot of capital here. Just 2 picks in the top 100, 21, 83, 123, 156, 185, 229. That's why I almost expect at some point, probably within like these 3 picks here, 83, 123, 156, I think we see him slide down a little bit to gain an extra pick. But that's just kind of my line of thinking. Maybe it doesn't happen, but all right. We, by the way, using mock draft database this time, used Pro Football Network Simulator last time. And also last time we made the picks based off what we would do with each selection. I say this time we try to be a little bit more predictive based off what we feel like the information we have in terms of what we think the Steelers will do. All right. So we'll get started here. I have no clue the speed in which this is going to go. Relatively fast.
Fairly fast.
Yeah.
Fast enough where it's not going to be a drag.
Yeah, am I able to look at other teams' picks?
Yeah, you scroll back at the top. At least I thought that's how it did.
I need to see. Does it show me? Okay. I swear Abdul Carter went super late, and I have no clue how to look at. Oh wait, I guess I could go. No, I can't do this. All right, well,
riveting stuff. Emeka Egbuka was just taken right before the Steelers to the Denver Broncos. That's something that's significant.
It is. Will Johnson's on the board. Edge rushers here. I'll be on Jahdae Barron, who the Steelers just met with. Matthew Golden, who the Steelers just met with. Kenneth Grant's obviously on the board there. That's a very popular pick. Nick Manawari, I'm not saying that this is the direction that they would go, but very interesting that Gerald Alexander was having a one-on-one conversation with him. It was at their pro day. Derek Harmon certainly in play. There is Jackson Dart there. I don't think we need to go down further. I think, again, trying to be predictive here. Egbuka could have been in the conversation for sure. I think with the way the board fell, I know they met with Barron. I know they met with Matthew Golden. But Kenneth Grant and Derek Harmon are both on the board here. Predictively, I think it would be one of those two.
Yeah, I would think so too. And if we're being true to what the Steelers are doing, we talked about so much in the previous mock draft how defensive tackle is going to be looked at early in this one. I think the same thing with this one. Nothing in free agency has led us to believe that that's going to be changed.
Should we?
What are the trades?
Did I see? This is the thing about Pro Football or mock draft database here. I'm sorry. So I didn't accept that trade right away, so they just go away. Or offers. Here we go. I was like, I clicked on trade and it was just pulling up. Okay, so 21 here for 38.69 and 2 futures. Don't care about those futures really, so this isn't great value for us. We're not making those picks, so it doesn't hold as much value. So I think we can reject this one right off the bat.
Especially considering how many futures the Steelers are future picks in 2026 Steelers are slated to have.
Okay, so at first I had a really bad reaction to this. If you're watching, I mean, it's still not great, but this is an early 2, obviously 3rd pick of the 2nd round. So, but still a 5 and a 6, you're sliding back that's. Yeah, not a pick, not a trade that I would make. This would probably have to be a 4 and a 5 along with that too.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Consider it. I mean, 21 and 35, how much difference is there? I mean, with the way that the board looks, predictively, there's 4 guys that we feel like are possible, but really within the position group that we're talking about and think is most likely for the Steelers, there's 2. Yeah, I think this is a reject. So sliding down 9 spots, get a 2nd, which we traded for DK Metcalf. So you're getting a 2 back, a 4 this year. And I mean, I really wish that there was just more in 2025 because another 3rd next year and 6th next year in a year in which the Steelers are really just compiling comp picks. Those would certainly be nice to add. I'll be this is piquing my interest, despite there being 2 futures that we aren't going to even use in this right now, just because you're getting that 2 back. But let's see what this last one is. I don't want to auto reject that one. Can I see what the next one is without? Okay. Oh God, yeah, no. The big value here is getting that 2026 2nd, but again, we're not using that. So I think the only one to consider here is Buffalo. Pick 30, so you're moving down from 21 to 30, picking up a 2 and a 4, plus a 3 and a 6 next year.
So I like the value. I understand why you'd make this trade. But I will say this. If we are being true to what we think the Steelers will do, I brought up in the first mock draft that we did a few weeks ago, every year we talk about the Steelers potentially trading down. And at least early in the draft, in the first round, that historically in recent years has never happened. They've either stayed the same or traded up. And so as much as I would be piqued by the interest of this trade, I personally just don't think it would happen because I think the Steelers would just stay where they're at and make their pick. Unless they prove me wrong this year and actually trade down, if we're sticking to the Steelers' prediction of what is going to happen as real as possible, I don't think they trade down.
Yeah. So the thing for me, right, is just because they also literally only because they don't have a 2nd round pick. They traded that for DK. And I just think Omar would love to be able to recoup that pick. But again, I think it's going to depend on how the board is. In all likelihood, no, I don't think that they'll move back here. Again, I think that they'll move back probably at 83 or their first pick in the 100s, whatever that is, 130 something.
If Kenneth Grant or Derek Harmon or Walter Nolan, like you mentioned a little earlier, if there was a run on defensive tackles and say Egbuka was gone too, just someone that was not one of their guys was gone, or we're all gone, I would be more open to thinking that they're going to trade down. But the fact that we have several of those guys still on the board, I think the Steelers would stay and just make a pick.
Yeah. Okay. We've done enough talking. Kenneth Grant and Derek Harmon, I like both. I think predictively, to me, as we sit here right now where we're at, and this could change by the time we get the draft,
yeah, I think that Derek Harmon is too far away. He plays at the University of Oregon. The Steelers historically do not look in the West Coast all that often. And between the two, I like Kenneth Grant. And I have said before
There
that
a lot of pro comps for Derek Harmon, Cam Hayward, which is interesting.
really.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've said before that just based off of the physique of the defensive lineman, Kenneth Grant is the one that I would want because he's just a big mountain of a man, and I think that he would be utilized well in the Steelers and get them better at rush defense quite specifically. So that's where I'd be going with it.
All right, let's draft Kenneth Grant. We're flying through here, and we're sitting and waiting as well because
no round 2 pick anymore.
Did I just see Jackson Dart go to the Bengals? I'm gonna have to look. We're gonna have to go back through this at the end if it lets us for just the totality because it's very odd that you can't scroll back.
I thought you were able to. I'll be honest. I've used this site quite a bit, and I thought you were able to scroll through the picks.
I mean, it just highlights the name here. I don't.
Yeah.
Unless I'm doing something wrong. But anyways, okay. All right, looking at the board here. I mean, Kaleb Johnson's there. We talked about running back. We took him in our last mock draft. Some wide receivers, Jack Betch and Jalen Noel. I just talked about him. I think for me, right now, based off the type of receiver that I think the Steelers need, assuming that Aaron Rodgers is going to be their starting quarterback and what's on the roster right now in the receiving room, is a Kyle Williams or Jalen Noel. I think they're the route runners of this class.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys that can get open quick. So if we're taking a receiver, Jalen Noel, I really like. They have him ranked higher than I think Pro Football Network did.
They definitely is. What other running backs are available in this spot as well? Could you just sort by running back and just see who's available? Because I mean, especially now that they don't have a second round pick, I feel like round 3 very much in play for running back.
Sure.
So the fact in this one, Kaleb Johnson is still there, DJ Giddens is still there. Those are two guys that we would definitely be interested in. Hey, they have Devin Neal a lot higher than other sites as well.
And Baishal Tootin already went, so they must have him pretty high as well.
I got to be honest, I would, based off the current need for the Steelers, I would look running back. I would look at Kaleb Johnson or DJ Giddens based off of what the Steelers are working with in the backfield. Like we mentioned, they signed Kenneth Gainwell, but how much of a contributor truly to the offense is that going to be? Do we expect him to be the running back too? I wouldn't think so. I think that'd be more of a contribution into the returning game and be a true running back 3, and then still looking for that RB2. And I could hear wide receiver here as well, just because despite getting DK Metcalf, there's still room to improve in that wide receiver room. So for sure that could be an option. But running back is where I would look, especially since you don't have that round 2 pick.
Yeah, I'd be between Kaleb Johnson, DJ Giddens, and Jalen Noel is my 3 with this pick. I don't want to not pick somebody just because we did it last time. I think Kaleb Johnson makes a ton of sense in this spot.
I think he makes a ton of sense. Obviously everybody's mock draft databases are going to be different for how they rank players, but I am surprised that in back-to-back mock drafts, we're getting Kaleb Johnson at 83.
Yeah, I think he's dropping a little bit. Not for me, but I think on a lot of people's consensus is because of questions about the speed. But he plays a lot
Steelers
faster.
Fans have said, why would we want Najee Harris 2.0? We've seen this story before.
Yeah.
And how do you react whenever people say that?
If you're really I hate comps in general, but if you're really trying to find that guy in this draft class, it's Ollie Gordon and it's not Kaleb Johnson. Kaleb Johnson's plenty fast, and we've seen the home run speed in at Iowa on tape. I understand the testing is the testing, but turn on the film and see he's plenty fast. He's game fast. So in great fit for what they want to do, the wide zone. So yeah, I like DJ Giddens a lot as a player, but I'd be picking Kaleb Johnson here.
Yeah, I would too. Since he's available on the board, don't necessarily think that he's going to be, but based off what's available in this one, Kaleb Johnson makes a ton of sense.
A+.
And
That's right.
they give it an A+. So hard to argue with that. I agree with you. I don't think that Kaleb Johnson is slow. And I also agree with the comp of Ollie Gordon being the Najee Harris comparison over Kaleb Johnson. I just don't see the comparison that much between him and Najee Harris. Like, I understand why people would have their concerns because he's not a prototypical like speedy back that a lot of people are wanting, but he still is a really good running back to have and would be great in this room.
156. Okay, so we pick at 156 after this. I was just looking, 162. So if we traded this pick, we wouldn't be picking until 156. We get a 6th round pick, so we're gate. But then again, the real value there is getting the 2026 for. I wanted to trade out of one of these spots, but like we didn't even get an offer last time, and this trade to me isn't very good. So I don't know.
I wouldn't take this trade. That's just a long time between.
Although
picks.
I guess let's see what's on the board, because if we don't like what's there at all,
that's also true.
Charles Grant met with him.
EJ Giddens is still there. Double dip.
Yeah. Tyler Shuck. Oh, they like Latham Ransom. Met with him. Or was that just at his pro day? Also, was at Gunnar Helm's pro day.
I'm assuming that he is gone. But no,
Will
he's
Howard.
right there. That is. Would we consider looking at Will Howard in this spot?
I think they would. I think they would consider him at 83. But he's there now at 123 to be. Again, like predictively, they would probably pick Will Howard over him, but man, does it hurt to see Kyle Williams still there.
I mean, based off of some of the names that are available and what you just told me before we started the mock draft, I think Will Howard would make a ton of sense at 123.
Yeah.
You're not drafting a quarterback early. You wait till round 4 and to get your guy. And he's somebody
Are we just drafting all Big Ten players.
Honestly, probably. But he's somebody that I don't think there would be any expectation if you're drafting Will Howard in round 4 for him to come in and contribute in year 1 at all. And so if you do draft Will Howard, this is also assuming that Aaron Rodgers did not sign in Pittsburgh. So Mason Rudolph would be your starter in 2025. At least I would assume that's what you would that would be the case.
I don't know. I think to me what it would signal more is I'd really start to question, are they actually taking that shot in 26 that we think they're taking?
That's true.
I think that's kind of why I don't want it to happen. Like, I don't want them to take a shot on a quarterback in 25 just because I'd rather them wait until 26, regardless of if it's Howard, if it's Milroe, if it's Shuck, like they're going to get a shot to play. And then I wonder if they're going to even draft one in 26. So even if they draft Aaron Rodgers, draft Aaron Rodgers. Even if they sign Aaron Rodgers, I think Howard's still in play.
You know, talking about that now, that makes me so mad because I think that 2026 is the much better draft to make a move in. And seeing
we just saw it happen last time Steelers needed a quarterback.
I know. But seeing all the times that all the comp picks that the Steelers could potentially have, like 4 third-round picks next year, like that's easy money to move up in the first round to get a quarterback. But predictively, the Steelers would take a quarterback whenever you don't want them to. They did it last time, and they did it in the first round when nobody else wanted to. Any of these guys up here, I don't think would be in play. At least out of the suggestions,
they have Tez Johnson way too high. Yeah. I think they like Will Howard more than Shuck.
Yeah,
I think Will Howard.
Do we go Will Howard? Yeah.
I think for me, I would be making the case for Kyle Williams or Lathan Ransom. I think they would pick Will Howard, and I don't hate it by any means. I like Will Howard. Will Howard's college football playoff run was the best stretch of football any college quarterback had last year.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, before that, it wasn't great. So, which Will Howard are you getting? That's the question. And how's he going to translate? From a perspective, like, I actually think it's a good fit schematically for what Arthur Smith does. But again, I hate the idea of investing a mid-round pick in a guy in 25 and then just not being involved in the 26 TB market. And it shouldn't prevent them. It's just my line of me thinking that it's going to.
Yeah, no, I definitely have those same thoughts. So, but hey,
give us
I mean, we currently have an A, an A plus, and an A on all of our picks so far.
Yeah,
I don't hate it. Like if this end up being the first 3 picks in the draft, I would not hate it. The fact that they waited at least until round 4 to take a quarterback would be the solace that I need, the comfort that I need to know that they did not take one early.
Kyle Williams is still on the board at 156. I don't know how much interest there is. There should be. Like, I know the Steelers fans don't want to hear the name because there's a bad taste in their mouth. But, like, if you're looking for a Deontay Johnson type in this class, it's Kyle Williams. And I don't think the issues with the Steelers were the type of player that Deontay Johnson was. Danny Stutzman met with him. I don't necessarily want to do that, but if we're just looking for guys that we know they met with, same with JJ. Man.
Do you think double dipping at defensive line would be in play?
Yeah, for sure. I think that I almost expect it to happen. Jamari Caldwell, I guess, should be in the conversation for that same reason. Jackson Slater is very interesting. Could he push Mason McCormick or take over next year after, say, Amalo moves on or whatever? Like,
I think interior offensive line could be a draft pick, like in the mid rounds right now.
The player I want to take is Kyle Williams, like very bad, but
how much interest is there? Real interest would there be from the Steelers?
Let me see if they talked to him at the Senior Bowl.
Okay, I'll allow you to pick him if they talk to him. Otherwise, I feel like we have to stay away from him because that's just your personal bias towards him, which I fully understand. He's a great player. I think Jackson Slater or Miles Frazier, like interior offensive lineman, is definitely something that could be taken in the mid rounds, and it's something that we've talked about where you want to push Mason McCormick. You don't want to give him the job right away just because he was the starter for a lot of 2024. And maybe if that is another 4th, 5th round pick, pushing him, you don't need to necessarily take one that is either going to be high in the draft or somebody that's going to be like in free agency. Like, you didn't have to sign anybody to necessarily take his spot for sure, but at least create that sense of competition is something that I think would be good for him. You find anything out?
No. I'm sorry. I don't think they did.
Would they look at a safety available here? We talked about how they could be interested in the safety market.
Yeah. I mean, potentially. I don't think this is a great board for them. Like, Malachi Moore is one that they took to dinner, was part of that dinner they went to.
Mm-hmm.
The only one here that I know of interest.
I mean, if we're getting to the 300 ranked player, what are we doing?
Saw Jordan Hancock today have a great test at the Ohio State's Pro Day.
I mean, that would keep with the Big Ten.
Yeah. Yeah, as much as I would like for this pick to be Kyle Williams, I don't know that I can't find any interest on him.
Did the Steelers have any interest in Jackson Slater?
I don't know that I saw anything with him either, but that's why I'm thinking from an interest perspective, it's probably a double dip on the defensive line here.
I mean, I don't hate that. Looking at the defensive linemen for this upcoming season, I feel like there is definitely a lot of room for potential for guys to have spots on that defensive line. Like, really, the two homegrown names on that defensive line right now are Keanu Benton and Cam Hayward. But then there's guys like Isaiah Loudermilk, Monty Adams, Daniel Okale, Dean Lowry, just guys that you could find somebody in the draft and somebody that could take up spots more than once. So even though drafting Kenneth Grant in round 1, I think it would make sense. Question is, it would be Jamari Caldwell be here, or do they have interest in him, or do you move down and look at somebody else?
Believe they talked to Jamari Caldwell. Yeah, they did. They talked to Jamari Caldwell, Senior Bowl. So I think he could be in play. And I think he's the best player on their board. And then going down, Peebles doesn't fit what they're looking for. Too small. Did just see Vernon Broughton at his pro day. Ty Hamilton as well. Kind of sucks Tyliek Williams getting injured. Hope it's not too serious, but saw a ton of Ty Hamilton at that pro day. I think it's Jamari Caldwell here.
Okay. I'm with it. Still technically all Big Ten.
There goes our. Oh yeah, that's right. And there goes our streak of A's though. Wonder what they would have given Kyle Williams.
Here's what I don't understand though. How are we going to get a B+ when we took the best player available?
I guess double
Just
dipping
because
the
we've
position.
already taken. Yeah, it's rigged.
Any interest in moving down 10 slots to pick up whatever that is?
Pick up.
Late 6th? Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, it's still 6th. Let's see what the board looks like. Is there somebody? Man, Malachi Moore might honestly be the pick.
Yeah. Ricky White.
We haven't drafted a receiver yet.
Do the Steelers have interest in Ricky White?
Certainly plays. I keep forgetting about that part of this.
Remember, this isn't our mock draft. This is a true to Steelers way mock draft. Well, I mean, let's be honest. If we're true to Steelers way, you should probably move up a few slots and draft a linebacker.
Yeah, met with him at the combine.
Ricky White?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would be fine making that trade to move down 10 spots because I think there's a few players that we're looking at. But if you're looking position specific, I would just take Ricky White here because I like Ricky White too. If we're putting personal feelings.
Yeah, if Ricky White or Malachi Moore would get there to 180. Or wait, where are we moving to?
We were moving to 195 and then 201, I think.
Okay. That could be dicey. I mean, Malachi Moore is 168 and Ricky White's 187. They could definitely both go in the next 10 picks.
Yeah.
And looking at the rest of the board, I want this pick to be one of those two. I say we just stick and decide between those two, which one we take. And I'm leaning Ricky White.
I'm leaning Ricky White too. While I think that you could improve the safety room, I don't think the safety room is in as much need as the wide receiver room, despite
they need a backup outside receiver.
Yeah, I don't think that they have any anybody else that could be an outside receiver, like you just mentioned. Yeah, the wide receiver room needs more help than the safety room. You can work with it more.
If George Pickens or DK Metcalf get hurt, right now Ben Skoranek is starting, and I love him, but
yeah, Tyler Batty just got drafted.
There you go.
And if we are being true to the Steelers, and I don't know if they've talked to him or met with him, to me, I would just go to the position board and I would go to tight end and I would look for Bartholomew and see if he is there.
There's been some interesting tight ends. I mean, Bartholomew's a local guy, so it's kind of like harder to tell. None of the ones I've heard about are still on the board here, though.
He's gone.
Wow.
He's already drafted.
Who took him?
I don't know.
All right. Back to the drawing board. Let's look at the safeties. Shiloh Sanders.
We've got several Big Ten safeties still available.
I like Aubrey Burks out of West Virginia, especially for what the Steelers are looking for, probably if they're taking a safety. Corner. I don't see any names that are like the Steelers for sure met with him.
What about edge?
Nothing's jumping out to me.
No. And I mean, we are talking about our 7th round pick. So this is kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel. But even okay. So if we don't know anybody that the Steelers have specifically talked to in this draft pick, as far as like what's the board available, at least what position do we collectively think they would look at with this pick? Like this pick really feels like a safety or a tight end to me.
Yeah, I would just say safety or offensive line, but honestly, the best player that I've seen, at least in my opinion, that's left here is Nick Martin, the linebacker out of Oklahoma State. I'm not suggesting that we do that. I'm just saying he's the best player in my mind that I've scrolled past.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, we already double dipped on
triple
defensive line. They did have Yaya Black in for a 30 already. Thor, there's a dude named Thor.
Zeke Biggers. I mean, we're getting into the all name category down here.
Yeah, I probably lean towards taking a DB.
Okay.
I mean, saw him against Pitt. Elijah Huzzy, to me, is the best player among the defensive backs left. Jabbar Muhammad. Is there any? Let me see.
What are you looking for?
Just seeing if for some reason the Steelers has saw Jabbar Muhammad at all. I mean, a bunch of fan mock drafts putting Jabbar Muhammad in as a Steelers pick. I found a tweet from DB. January 8th, 2024. Jabbar Muhammad is so sticky in coverage. Size concerns aside, he's a baller. I would be between those two corners. And I don't really care which one.
I would say Elijah Huzzy for 2 reasons. He's played against Pitt.
That's definitely the way we should go. Steelers had a bunch area scout Jared Heiberger at North Carolina, as well as some other scouts. Obviously, Amari Hampton's there, Willie Lampkin, Power Eccles, but Elijah Huzzy, he's also punt returner for them. So
there you go.
Maybe he could help out the Steelers there. Yeah. All right. There we go. I want to be able to go back. I want to be able to look at everybody's picks.
I think you should.
I got to see. No, are you kidding me? This is awful. This site stinks.
Oh, well, our next one will either go back to PFN or go to PFF.
Yeah. I can't do anything besides press save or restart from this. Wow. What are we doing? Yeah, I mean, we got some tweaks to make here. Mock draft database. But all right, let's go through the draft here. Pick 21, Kenneth Grant. Pick 83, Kaleb Johnson. Pick 123, Will Howard. Pick 156, Jamari Caldwell. Pick 185, Ricky White. And pick 229, Elijah Huzzie, which no less than a B+ on any of our picks. Look at that Huzzie one as well. A+.
A+.
Back up there. So, I mean, it's got to average out to an A, right? I mean, one B+ in there.
Yeah,
couple
for sure.
A+, so A draft grade. I like it. I'll say I think that it was definitely a good idea to stay true to trying to find if there was any link at all to the Steelers to at least be able to justify the selection that way.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe pass it up on some better players in the process, and they could be players that eventually the Steelers do meet with. Like, who's to say Kyle Williams doesn't come in for a top 30 along the line here or whatever. Hopefully that's the case. But yeah, and also it's interesting to see how different the simulators are from one another. But
yeah,
I feel good
also,
about it.
In true Steelers fashion, it is very like them to take players that before others that will end up being better than them. So that is also true to the Steelers sometimes, especially if those players are taken, I don't know, a mere few picks after by the in division rival. So
yeah.
Ricky White would end up being in a Raven. Or not Ricky White. Which receiver were we talking about?
Kyle Williams?
Kyle Williams. He would end up being in a Raven in that case.
Yeah, it can't happen. I'm mad you even said that. But, especially like these picks down the line here. Like, I like Huzzie. I like Ricky White. Are they going to make the team? Hopefully, especially like the position group that they're within. I think they're going to have a good shot. But a lot of times the 7th round picks, you don't even see them make the cut. Smitty from around the 412 here. And while I may not have much hair, the hair that I do have will not be cut by anybody besides Keek at Keek's Barbershop. My friend Christian Circle, been with us since day one. Keek's Barbershop, located 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Download the app, The Cut. Book an appointment with Christian today, or you can do walk-in with Tony or Ashley. But again, Keek's Barbershop, 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Go check them out. Old school vibe in there. Absolutely love it. Cannot recommend them enough. Wouldn't go anywhere else. Maybe I'll see you there. Anything else you'd like to add, Tyler?
No, if the Steelers walked away with this draft, I would be good with it. I really like a lot of the picks that we made. The one, probably the most polarizing one for sure, is Will Howard in the 4th round, which if you just put that in a vacuum by itself, I don't mind that pick at all. But then when you look at the greater grand scheme of things, looking at 2026 and the future beyond and how the involvement in the quarterback position could be more beneficial to the Steelers next year than if they just skipped out on this year. But that would definitely be an interesting reaction from the fan base, at least. But I if they did indeed happen, I wouldn't hate it, especially because, like I said, when we picked him, at least we didn't take one early. At least they wouldn't have taken one early. If they wait till 4th round, then so be it. It is what it is. It's going to be a position that's going to be polarizing no matter what, whether they do take one or don't take one. But I like all of our other picks. Double dipping at defensive line. Excuse me. I don't mind at all. Kenneth Grant, Jamari Caldwell, good with those ones. Kaleb Johnson. The fact that we got him twice in both mock drafts, pre and post free agency, we have gotten Kaleb Johnson at number 83. Pretty surprising to me. Yeah. And then Ricky White, good late addition. I like it. I would be fine if the Steelers walked away with this.
Yeah, it's certainly not my favorite outcome, and I think it's important to say that just because, like, there's a lot of people that are probably like, oh, this sucks, this isn't whatever. But, like, this, again, was trying to be predictive with drawing links to what we've seen the Steelers show interest in and who we've seen them show interest in, and trying to be as predictive as possible. So is this the way that I would have made every selection? Absolutely not. I like Will Howard a lot. I would not have drafted him. Like, at all, just because I wouldn't take a quarterback in this class, ideally. So, but anyways, let us know how you feel in the comments. Sure, there's going to be a ton of hate down there. Drop any questions for future episodes, all that good stuff. Leave those in the comments if you're here on YouTube. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell while you're here as well. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast's from, leave us a 5-star review and subscribe over there. But also come over to the YouTube and do everything that I just said as well, so we can keep growing the community over here. Check out the links in the description wherever you're watching or listening. Again, we already talked about Game Changers, talked about Teach Barbershop. Now we got to tell you about Marcelo Electric. You know what? Let me just get this off the screen now that we're done with this anyway. Now it's above Tyler. Marcelo Electric, our friend Brandon Marcelo's small business, serving Beaver, Allegheny, Lawrence, and Butler County. Residential, commercial, service calls. He does it all. Hit him up, 724-614-0611. Again, 724-614-0611. The link to his Facebook page is down below, though. His phone number that I just read you there. Email is there. Ton of pictures and posts of his work and reviews from other people that he's done work for. So be sure to go check that out as well. And then Everything Custom Designs, our friend Haley Wagner, small business down there too. Our shirts, hoodies, long sleeves, all that good stuff, glass tumblers, or you can do some custom merch of your own. So be sure to check out Haley's stuff as well over there. And then hit us up on all of our social medias at Around the 412. Until next time, no clue what we're going to talk about on the Steelers next episode. Maybe Aaron Rodgers will have signed and be a Pittsburgh Steeler, but who knows? But either way, we'll see you next week. For Tyler, for Smitty, this has been the Around the 412 Steelers show, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.